do that either. And I know Jesus didn't. If there was any other way, he would have done it. But he knew that this is what God had planned, and that him dying on the cross is good for everybody because it was paid for our sins. But that kind of stuck with me. So, as I said, I grew up a Christian. I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was an assistant pastor. I was a preacher's kid, so I was supposed to be perfect. At church, that was true. At home, it was different. And then my senior year, I thought it was going to be a great year. Had everything going for me, and then came home one day and I found out we were leaving our church after I'd been there 18 years, but my dad was the youth pastor, assistant pastor. He did everything. And we found out we were leaving the church, and then my dad told us that Sunday was going to be our last Sunday. So we didn't really have a chance. We couldn't tell anybody till that Sunday when he told everybody that we were leaving. And it kind of devastated me because it was supposed to be a great year. It was my senior year. And I just started asking God, why would this happen to us? I mean, we did everything right. I was trying to figure out if I did something wrong that made God mad, and he's just time to move on. But the circumstances, I still don't know what they are, and I don't plan on knowing. Had to do with leadership of the church. And so my dad and the pastor decided that he would resign. And so my dad was out of work. I was the only one working. And came home another day, sat down on the couch after working, and I was like, I'll just watch TV and relax after working all day. And my dad came in and he said, I need to talk to you. I was like, great. What else could go wrong? I mean, he's already told me we're not at a church anymore. We're going to another church that I don't know anybody at. And he had 2 pieces of paper in his hand. And one was another offer to work at another church with one of his friends, or we could move down here. And my heart wanted to stay there because I've always known Indiana. But at the same time, I felt God saying, you guys are going to have to move away to get away from the situation. I was like, all right. And so my dad told me to pray about it and let him know the next morning before I went to school with my sister. He came out to the car with me, and he asked me what the decision was, and I said, I guess I don't mind palm trees. So we moved down here, and we were going to a good church. It was Christ Community Church. We were getting involved. My uncle was the college leader, so that made it a little easier to get to know everybody. And then one day I called my old boss. I worked at Dollar Tree. I called him up in Indiana, and I was talking to him. And he asked me if I would want to come back to be one of the managers. And I worked at a Dollar Tree down here at the time, and just as a cashier. So I decided to go back to Indiana because that's what I knew and it was comfortable. So I went back, not really knowing how much I was really getting paid. I was told I was getting paid $10, and I ended up only getting about $9, which was okay. I moved in with a roommate that I went to school with, didn't know really much about him. that was the first mistake. Um, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And then I let an old friend back into my life. I used to go to church with. I went to Bethel with her, and I started dating her. So we were both Christians. I figured that everything would be all right. We said that we were going to keep God first and leave it at that, and everything would be all right. So then when it came time to decide what church we're going to, either hers or churches I've been visiting. And so I went to her church. And it was the weirdest feeling ever. I walked up to the door, and as soon as I opened it and stepped in, it's just like God said, "I'll see you when you come out." I'm like, wow, all right. I was like, well, I mean, it's my girlfriend, so that's where I'm going to go. And I went there. It was all right. Kind of dead, but it was all right. And it seemed like after that, I let everything from trusting God kind of started falling apart, and it was all about me. Anything I wanted to do, I was going to do it, and I had better control my life than God did. So I thought. And then it started getting to the point where I was stressed out at work at Dollar Tree. I mean, the one in Greenfield, there's not a lot of people that come in there. Most of them are older people, so they're not too mean to you. But it seemed like everything bugged me. I had never had peace about anything. I was like, what is going on? I mean, everything was going for me. Just everything started falling apart. I hated life, wanted something better, didn't know how to get it. I pretty much gave up on church. I didn't think it was worth it. Every church I went to was in your face. You're going to hell if you're not saved. If you're a sinner, then you shouldn't be here. But the whole point of going to church is learning how to grow and become more of a Christian than just sinning, and just being told that you're a sinner. So I talked to my dad on the phone, and I told him, I said, I feel like I'd be better a Christian if I didn't go to church. He said, well, don't give up on it. He's like, just keep searching for another church. I said, all right, I'll try. So I went to the sister church of the church that I went to before, and it was all right. I knew most people because I went to school with them, and I still wasn't getting fed, though. I still felt empty, like going to church for no reason, just to say that I went 3 times a week. And so I started praying for probably the first time in a long time. I said, God, if this is not where I'm supposed to be, let me know. So right before that, I watched Evan Almighty. It's a pretty good movie. And I went to church that night, and sure enough, that's what the pastor talked on, was how we should not see that movie. I was like, all right, God, you got my attention. I was like, I shouldn't be here. Because I didn't see a problem with it, but he said that if we watch that, God should strike us dead. So I was like, I'm out of here. That's why I left the other church. So then we get to the point where I just hit rock bottom. It was probably the worst week of my life. It just seemed like nothing was going right. I didn't care about anything. I didn't really care how people felt about me not being at church. I just wanted to be alone. And I was hanging out with my friends one night, and we went to Starbucks, and my phone rang. It was my dad. I was like, oh, that's kind of odd. So I decided to answer it. Kind of wish I wouldn't have. He said, you busy? I was like, well, I'm with friends. I was like, what do you got? He said,